Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Bette Blance from New Zealand. I've known Bette for a number of years. We've met at different places around the world. And Bette has been very involved in education. And as you know, Dr. Glance's professional life started in education, mainly because the psychiatrist wouldn't let him work in psychiatry. And fortunately for us, because he had one foot in counselling and one foot in education. And Bette has been promoting that and promoting not only Glasgow Quality Schools, but also the Take Charge programme, which he was a major contributor to, and which we have benefited from here in Ireland. So Bette, without more ado, I hand the screen over to yourself.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for the opportunity to work with you as a group of people this morning, early this morning.
How do I sign in?
If everyone else could just turn their microphone to mute, please. Yep.
Okay. I've had many gifts in my life. My whānau, my family. I've been married to Bob for 56 years, and I've got 2 girls and 5 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. So I'm very blessed in that way. Bill Glasser was a gift, an absolute gift to me as a young teacher, and I've been able to work with his ideas and meet him on several occasions. And a gift that's come to me lately is this principal in Auckland of a school. It's a primary school, and it's the basis of my presentation today, because I have been able to work with her and her staff in a very different way for presenting choice theory, reality therapy, and lead management to her school. So I'm going to share the screen, and we'll so the Glasser Quality School, I've called it Glasser Quality School Process in Action because it's based on a document that is one of the governing policies of William Glasser International, and how I've been able to use this in the school that I have been given the gift of working with. I've worked in a number of other schools as well. One of them was Peregian Springs in Australia. A lot of my 35 years we lived in Australia, and I did a lot of work in schools over there. But Peregian Springs became the latest Glasser Quality School in 2019. And this was somebody coming to school. And this is the mantra that they have at the school. And happy kids and happy staff who can't wait to get to school every day. Not just the day when there's sports, not just the day when they have something that they really enjoy, but every day. And I think that explains a lot about why I really believe that the work that people do on the journey towards becoming a Glasser Quality School or a choice theory school is really, really valid and important. So the setting of the school where I've been given this gift it's Mungari Central School, and it's in South Auckland. The demographic of that school is that it's a very young population, and I'm going to shift these to the side. Relatively large Polynesian and Maori demographic, and lower incomes in other parts of Auckland. Auckland is the largest city in New Zealand. Generally a very conservative community, highly religious and largely believing in external control. So what the pastor says is right, and you must obey that as a sort of background to the school. The staff is interesting because there's a high proportion of Pacifica. When I talk about Pacifica, I'm talking about Polynesian people, so from the islands of Fiji, Samoa, Cook Islands, Tokelau, all of those islands. And a number of the staff are from the Pacific Islands, with a scattering of Pākehā. The Pākehā is the word for not other than Maori or Pacifica teachers, so Europeans, people from different countries, Kiwis, New Zealanders who have come through from, you know, they're from English, Irish, Scottish backgrounds and so on. The principal is Pacifica, and she's been at the school for 4 years. She taught in a school in Wellington where they had been involved in some training and were using choice theory. And so when she came to the school, she recognized that it was a school that was based on external control. And because she had experienced a school where this was not the case, then she was very keen and got in touch with me to see what we might be able to do. And so that's where I started with the program there. So the way it evolved, and it really did evolve and emerge, and we were co-creating this program with the principal and I and a number of others on staff, and so we developed this new process leading to a glass equality school or choice theory school, whichever way they choose to talk about it. So the first step was looking at the Take Charge of Your Life program. And this workshop was completed over three weeks, where we did 2-hour sessions each week. And then we went on to step 2, where we were looking at beginning the new year. Step 3, the choice theory classroom, or the choice theory teacher in a choice theory classroom. And then step 4 was choice theory online. So I'll explain more about each of these as we go through, and we're up to step 5, where to from here. So that's how it was different. It's based loosely on this policy, and if you have a look at the handout that I have uploaded, you will get a copy of that process, that document that is the policy for a glass equality school. So how is it different from the regular pathway? The current model is when the school engages with the faculty, and they start with a basic intensive training, and some do a basic practicum and fewer do, and that should be an advanced practicum, and even fewer do practicum, advanced and certification. Whereas with my model, I wanted to base this largely on what the European community use, and focusing on personal well-being. And so the Take Charge of Your Life program was able to do that for them. They made decisions about their own mental health and well-being, and they spent some time over the Christmas break in doing that for themselves. The next stage in my model is the school community becomes familiarised with the systemic change in the glass equality school ideas and process, the application to the classroom, which we did over 6 months, looking at the choice theory teacher and the choice theory classroom. And then they did the basic intensive training, which choice theory online allows that to happen. This is the one that comes from Canada through a Canadian community college. And over 14 weeks, the whole staff engaged in that basic intensive training. There was a formation of a core leadership team. And then they continue on to certification. So on the current model, the instructor works with the staff over time. 10 years to declare as a quality school is not unusual. It does take a long time, and in fact Peregian Springs has taken 11 years to declare as a glass equality school. then they self-evaluate this co-verification. The application is made and the WGI faculty visits the school and the declaration is made that they are indeed a glass quality school. So in my model, this core learning team does other activities along the way. For example, they train as collegial coaches and become coach trainers, with all staff trained as collegial coaches. There's the development of the school rubric, the collection of baseline data, the development of a management, self-management framework, continued class application supported, and then co-verification. So it ends up in the same place, but it goes in a different path, uses a different pathway to do that. So there are benefits and costs in this model. I think the benefits are that there's a focus on self to start off with. So instead of doing choice theory, they are looking at being choice theory and how they can actually live it. There's no time is there those who have had training and those who have not. So everybody is all at the same time engaged in the ideas and the application of those ideas. Another benefit is following that process is that it becomes a self-sustaining model of professional development. I think that a lot of money is spent on professional development in schools. This has been my experience over many years of working with, particularly in Australia. A lot of money is spent on professional development, but the change is lost because there's no follow-up. Innovations live or die by the amount of follow-up that is there. So with the idea of having the coaches trained in using the collegial coaching model, it becomes self-sustaining and the skills and support are embedded, and the facilitator or the instructor can actually step back because it becomes a cycle in itself. It becomes the whole package. Some of the costs, and this has been a regular feature of programs that I have run both in Australia and now in this one, that a small number of staff will actually leave because they get to see that they've got choices, and so they leave. And luckily, some of them go on to be principals in small schools. And as well as being principals in small schools, they then recognise what they gained when involved with the school that has had the training that's happened. So it spreads out from there. That's been an experience that I have had recently with another school that I was working with. The principal of that school was at another school that I had been working with. So it just followed that they wanted the same for their school. It can be costly because the school that I have worked with in Auckland, or I have begun working with in Auckland, there are 30 staff members, and all of those within that 14 weeks, everyone has been, they have been engaged with a basic intensive training. So that can be costly, and that's a decision that the school actually made very, very consciously, that they wanted to be able to all do it at the same time. So with the Take Charge, it was a focus on well-being as a teacher, and that was completed before COVID. So it was face-to-face. I went to Auckland and we did the workshops, they were all after school workshops, and the teachers were able to take charge. Over the holidays, they were actually able to then look at themselves and become more cognizant about their own personal well-being. And with the agreement of the principal, we use that time for them to integrate the ideas into their personal lives. Choice Theory Classroom was a program that I developed that was the experiences I've had as a facilitator, an advisor in schools over 14 years in Australia. And so it allowed me to pull together a whole lot of things there. But of course, it's continuously improving the system. The principal did not want to continue to do the basic intensive training because it meant splitting up the group because Take Charge, we could have the whole group, the whole staff all together in that program. So when it came to doing a basic intensive training, the only way that we could do that face to face was to have 2 groups of 16 go through. So the Choice Theory Classroom that followed, Take Charge of Your Life, was during staff meetings, so 1.25 hours per fortnight. And my hypothesis in putting this together was that the teachers were being given opportunities to share what they were doing in the classroom in terms of teaching choice theory to the students. And my hypothesis is that if you're teaching is learning twice, so they would be re-engaging with the content of the Take Charge, the choice theory information. The system, it's hard. This is a really difficult concept, but I love this quote. You know, when a flower doesn't bloom, you change the environment in which it grows, not the flower. And so that was the notion that we were working with in when we were looking at the choice theory teacher and the choice theory classroom. To give an overall view of where we were going with this and looking at that shift from the external controlled psychology to internal controlled psychology, we looked at this model that I had created. And you can see that at the top of the arch, where the strongest part of the arch, the keystone of the arch, you can see the things that come from choice theory that we were able to talk about. It just so happened that fun was the center because the brick was the right size when I created this. But it certainly is one of the things that hold things together. And it's really important. We looked at the balance between the academic learning outcomes on the left-hand side, vision and goal setting, self-evaluation, continuous self-improvement over time, total learning competence, quality work and success. So that was part of the program that we were looking at. But then also on the right-hand side, you've got the social learning outcomes. Teaching choice theory, relating to others, high levels of trust, managing self through self-evaluation, responsible self-management framework, which is what we've made that shift from thinking about behaviour management, which is very common language in both Australia and New Zealand, to looking at a self-management framework. And that's been reinforced by what's come out of the Bette Springs School as well. In the centre, the doorways into the centre, the caring conversation, caring confrontations, leading with choice theory. Caring conversations look at using reality therapy with children. caring confrontations is more the management style, the being a lead manager, but also setting clear boundaries and working with students in that way. So that's that model there. All right, so these are the things that we covered in the choice theory classroom, nothing new there. My perceptions were that they were enjoying and engaging with the ideas of the choice theory classroom. They were writing plans to do things in the classroom, and most were reporting back things that they were trying out during the next session, because that was part of what we did. But the principal's perception was that they were complying but not translating to the paradigm shift that she was actually looking for. And so the research that I did at that stage backed up what she was saying, that just two of the aspects there, basic needs concepts used when planning, and you can see the differences in there, whether they're commonplace, not yet commonplace, small number, not yet established. And then the relationships with students based on trust. And this part here, the small one here, is I need more new information. That was the response. And so there were people who were looking at doing that. So getting this feedback from the teachers, we then pursued the idea of doing more in-depth training, because they'd only had, they'd had Take Charge of Your Life, and then they had been teaching the concepts of choice theory in the classroom. So we went from there, and this was, I knew that this was where we needed to go to have some more in-depth learning with a basic intensive training. And so the Canadian Community College, Jeanette Gauguin, who created this, who is working with different instructors around the globe. It's a 45-hour program. It's got quizzes. It's got, give me a minute. It's got text up there. It's got videos. It's got quizzes. It's got discussion, learning forums, and it's got summative evaluation. So it's run exactly as any other courses through that community college. It's one of the things that was amazing to me was the way in which people were interacting with each other. People were writing on the discussion forum, and others were commenting on it and encouraging and doing all sorts of great things. So not only were they learning choice theory themselves, they were also learning to become an even more cohesive staff than they were in the past. So lots of benefits in doing this way. They did it in their own time. They met with me for 6 Zoom sessions, each of 1 hour long, where we did role-playing practice, and there were 3 groups of 8, so that gave, within a week, they had all covered the whole, all of the skills development that they needed to do. And yay, the principal has booked choice theory online training for her new staff in 2021. So we're about to start with a group of 7 staff members who are new to the school, who have not had any training at all from about choice theory. It'll be interesting when I said this to Jeanette. It will be interesting to see the difference between a group that did Take Charge and then did the choice theory, choice teacher, choice theory classroom, and they're just going straight into a basic intensive training on with that. So that will be interesting. So we're at the stage where to from here with schools in New Zealand, particularly Auckland, because all of the COVID-19 breakouts have been in Auckland over the last, well, since the beginning of this year. And when it becomes a level 3, it means that schools close, only open for the children of essential workers. And so with the schools closed, last year there was a lot of experience not quite overnight, but very quickly schools were told that the schools would be closed and they needed to go to online learning. So there was a lot of challenges in that. They became much better at it at the end of last year. And then this year again, Auckland has been in level 3. So that means that the schools have been closed twice since the beginning of the year. So the where to from here at this stage is recommendations to that core learning team that we look at some of these things. And one of them is that the core leadership team goes on to certification. In my view, it's really important that there is a group that has gone as far as that. And if there is an opportunity for others to do it as well, that would be excellent. But in a minimum of that core leadership team. Important because they become a resource. The collegial coaching training for this group, initially to become peer coaches. Coaches become inviting teachers and inviting teachers become coaches. So it's a reciprocal activity. It's based on WDEP. It's based on what did you want? What why have you chosen to do this lesson in this particular way? You could have chosen lots of different ways. This is a coach talking to an inviting teacher. What's behind that choice? And so you're looking at what it is that they want. What's in the quality world picture of the teacher as far as this lesson is concerned? The coach gathers information from the lesson, and then at the end that information is shared and there is a self-evaluation. In other words, how close were you to what you wanted? So that's the collegial coaching model. A whole school has, in the past, we've had whole schools where they have all been trained as coaches, and they regularly go into each other's classroom and give each other feedback using that process. With the group that's just gone through, we've given them free membership to Glass Aotearoa New Zealand for 1 year, hoping that they will be able to join after that as well. And then I'm also offering monthly online sessions for interested staff, just to keep it up there. We all know that things come in over the top. If you're in a school, they're busy places. Just take away the pandemic and they're just such busy places. It's easy to lose track, and that follow-up is really important. What would I do differently the next time? I would set up the research from the beginning. I have a lot of data that I have gathered personally, but looking at some pointers, some indicators of that shift that the principal was wanting from external control to internal control. So I would set that up a lot earlier, right at the beginning. I would also swap around the three steps that we took. They would do Choice Theory Online as the second phase in the program rather than the third. So take charge of your life, Choice Theory Online, and then follow it up with the classroom application. Ngā mihi nui, big thank you. Thank you from New Zealand, the land where a flightless bird, the kiwi, can fly. I don't know whether you've had the information over there, but we just won the America's Cup.
Oh.
And the foiling boats are absolutely amazing, just scarily amazing, it really is. So hopefully you'll get to see some of that. Thank you from New Zealand, where rugby is king. Oh, and we had a St. Patrick's Day parade yesterday in Auckland with 40 floats and 500 people involved. And we could have 500 people all together, no masks, just being themselves. So we consider ourselves really thankful. So I'll stop sharing. There we go. And come back and see if you've got any questions, any clarifications I can give you. Or
Thank you, Bette. That was wonderful. In many ways, it's music to my ears because, as Sonia will know, when I started teaching choice theory in Bogota, the institute at the time had developed a special program for quality schools, which it abandoned briefly after that. But we insisted that they would have a certificate in quality school rather than in reality therapy, because the original training was developed for reality therapy and didn't really accommodate itself to the school situation. I think what you have presented there, starting with a Take Charge program, starting with the personal dimension, and then moving through a more theoretical look at choice theory, I think that's wonderful. And I would hope that other places interested in the quality school will look at that. You're talking about, the Take Charge and then the online course. And I think the future of all of this, it looks like it's going to be blended learning. We're not going to get away from back to just a classroom situation. And also your emphasis on follow-up, that these ideas seem simple and yet they take a long time to mature in people's heads and in people's schools. Thank you very much for that. Now, any questions for anybody?
Just a comment, if I may. Maureen from New Brunswick. I bet. I just love the whole idea of the collegial coach approach, because I think that serves to go a long way. In New Brunswick, teachers don't really have a choice where they go, which school they go to. So when we had the Glasser Quality School, they would get transferred, or when the principal left, a new principal came in with external control background, so having the collegial approach, I think, really would help sustain the program. So I'm impressed with that. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. And in Australia, when I first started teaching in Australia, I signed a form to say that I would teach anywhere in Australia, and that could have been at Birdsville or Badooria or Bamaga, wherever in the whole state. They didn't shift me, and they generally didn't shift people who were married and had families, and so I was lucky in that way. But coming back to New Zealand, it's always been you apply for a school and you are interviewed by a board of trustees and you get the position. So there is much more, I guess, control over the staff coming in. They're not just put there. And so I think that makes a difference, and the fact that if people are enjoying what they're doing and they're feeling valued and all of those things, their basic needs are being satisfied, then the collegial coaching is one way that can happen very easily. Well, not very easily, but it can happen in a school when the whole school takes on that collegial coaching. Very powerful.
Yeah,
we did it for a lot of years in Australia.
Bette, I would like to thank you first because of all those new ideas. Thank you for sharing all those things that you're doing. And I would ask you two things. One, families. How are you working? Are you working with families or not, with parents? And have you changed the way that you're evaluating students?
Okay, the first one, families at this stage, no, but that's definitely where a very important place to go, I believe. I know that in some of the schools I've worked in, where the children actually do an assembly item that is teaching choice theory, and the parents, of course, line up at the back of the assembly, and they are getting choice theory from the students. So there are other ways, of course, as well. I'm not sure, Sonia, what you did at Rochester, of running sessions, specific sessions for parents as well. And I know that Peregian Springs does a wonderful job of that. And so that's certainly a place that we will go. Once we get over this pandemic, things will be better. Yes. The second question, assessment. I think we're really still in the familiarization process of the whole program, and that is yet to be looked at. It was on the arch, the total competency classroom, so it's there, but we haven't addressed it because we are really we've been going for 3 years. We're really in that familiarization and looking at people buying into it, and that's there's a lot to do there yet. Yes, thank you for your question.
That I think that your employment of research methods for your presentation takes it to a whole different level. And I'm very impressed by the fact that you are able to show differences and make decisions based on your research findings. Now, one time in a different meeting, I heard you say that you had some graduate students who were interested in this problem, and I take it that this was the result of their work in studying your activities.
Yes.
Where are they going to hang around, or will you have more graduate students in the second phase? It's very impressive, and it makes it communicate across the world, basically, that you have some data to demonstrate.
Yes, and what you're referring to has not come to fruition yet. It certainly is. It's something that we're looking into. We're waiting for the school year to get underway so that we can go and work with the principal on the ideas that I talked about in that meeting. But yes, it's I think it's a key thing that we need to look at the research, and it's something I've really not done very well.
I don't think you have to learn to do it very well, or at least I can't do it anymore with my gray hair, but certainly there's an aspiring professor somewhere with a group of graduate students that are really looking for you.
Yes. One of our, well, the only other faculty in New Zealand is senior faculty Ksenia Napan, and she is an associate professor at Massey University, and she is on our committee as well. And so she is very keen to speak with the principal so that we can set up that research and use, she will either do it herself, or we will be able to work with a master's student or a doctorate student who will pick it up as a project. So yes.
That's reassuring. I hate to see that go, without being communicated.
Yes. No, that's right.
But now that we are all Zooming around the world, when, as part of the William Glasser International and the board, I always had a dream that we would ultimately end up with a number of organizations within William Glasser International. One would be a quality school organization where people like yourself and people like Sonia and that could all meet up regularly and exchange ideas.
Yes.
What about it?
Yes, well, I think that's the, Sonia can speak to this as well. Now that there has been a change in the structure of William Glasser International, there are subcommittees that will get together, and one of them is a glass equality school. So that will be happening, and that's good.
Mm.
We everything is emerging,
Mhm.
and that's still to be decided. You know, who would be on that committee, but it's definitely something that is on the list of things that are going to happen with WTI. So that's good. Mm.
And I agree with what Sharon's saying about the need for research. I do think the Glasgow Quality School, it's a bit like in the reality therapy training, people do a certification presentation. I would think that the Glasgow Quality School, as part of their development, should carry out ongoing research, and that a major research project should be associated with it, because the evidence, the anecdotal evidence is there from any quality schools we've seen. And by the way, if any of you have never seen a Glasgow Quality School, for God's sake, visit one.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. Like, ordinary teachers don't believe the sort of things that are possible in a Glasgow Quality School.
Absolutely, I'd agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Brian, have we one on the island?
Yeah, well, I haven't been in contact in recent times, but the Youth Reach in Trim was certainly a Glasgow Quality School. Now, I know there was a change in management there, so I don't know what has happened since. But in your beautiful Croatia, you have places to go there in
I don't
Istria.
see myself going to my beautiful Croatia anytime
Well,
soon.
yes, it's a little bit more than 5 kilometers at the moment, yes.
Yeah.
But also in Ljubljana, there's the school in Ljubljana. You know, there are some schools within reach. Absolutely amazing places.
In Ireland as well, there's a school in Dublin, the school that Stacey was in,
Yes.
very
I was
much
wondering
fun
whether-
school, and that was in Dublin, you know. So
Yes, but she
That's
again,
City West, yeah.
yeah, she's been promoted, and that this is one of the difficulties. You know, somebody set up a school, they got promoted somewhere else. You know, and
Yeah. That's why the embeddedness of it is so important, that if it can continue on. And I've been in schools where we've done the collegial coaching, and I've had a call from the principal and deputies, and they're saying, "Bet, can you come and help us? Everyone else knows how to coach, but we don't." And so that's the sort of feeling that people have when they are in a quality school, because you know, if it's embedded and working, and not that it always happens like that, I know.
And if you
Maura.
watch this space, there'll be one up and coming in the UK as well. So
Oh, fabulous, Moira. That's
Yeah.
lovely.
good.
It's
That's right.
really interesting, because we've got 2 schools in New Zealand that are doing some amazing things, and neither of them, that there are people on our committee as well, neither of them would declare as a glass equality school, and yet they're a glass equality school in everything but name. So you've got people who use the ideas but don't necessarily want to stand up and say we are a glass equality school, which is
could I ask you about that, Bet? You know, declaring yourself as a Glasgow Quality School, are you declaring that you've reached a certain standard, or have you declared the path you've chosen?
My understanding would be it is that we are there, we've got there.
okay, that's an interesting
Yeah.
question, Brian. Yeah.
It is very interesting, and maybe that needs to change, because if we had schools that declared they were on the journey to becoming a glass equality school, it would give us a whole new set of schools. I'm sure. Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. I remember the Ljubljana school had some interesting statistics. They were showing the levels of expulsions, you know, official expulsions in their school before and after. And they, you know, they're very high, and then they came down to like practically zero. And then they started going up again. And we asked the Anna Nusha, the principal of the schools, what happened. She said, we got complacent. We said we have arrived, we're a Glasgow Quality School, and they got complacent. And she said those statistics, more than anything else, show the effectiveness of the Glasgow Quality School approach, because you could see when you stopped it, the problems arose again. and
Mm.
they come back to zero after that.
Yes, yes, it's fascinating. One of the schools that I'm talking about, they haven't had they talk about stand downs, exclusions, and all the names for it, and they haven't had one for 18 years. So there's a particular person in the school who works with the children, and they teach choice theory to the staff. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But that is a good measure.
Yeah.
That is a good measure.
Yeah.
Mm.
One of my favorite is youth reach centers. Actually, the principal said to me one day, he said, Brian, when I most feel like throwing a student out, I know that's when the student needs me most.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's lovely. Beautiful.
And there are many schools that are Glasser quality schools, although they're not committed to choice theory or not even know about it, and
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? We're still on the Glasser Quality School for anyone who's just arrived. If it was any other school, we'd ask you for a note from your mum, but since this is the Glasser Quality School, we won't do that.
Bette, I was going to just ask about the principal, I got the sense that the principal had a great sense of what she wanted, and that it was very much in line with choice theory. And I wondered, where did she get that, or I might have missed something at the beginning. Was she a choice theory person by training or just by natural?
Yes. I'm not sure. I think she had been in a basic intensive training in a school in Wellington, and she had worked with the ideas there. The staff had been involved in some way, and so when she came and found that her perception of the school was that it was very much external control, she knew she wanted to shift it, and she knew that choice theory was the way. So that was fortunate.
Yes,
that she had that experience and was able to know what she wanted and know how to get what she wanted. So yeah.
That's good. Thank you, Bette.
Thank you.
I think we're beginning to be invaded by people from other workshops.
I think so.
Keen to know what Bette is organizing here. Bette, thank you again for a wonderful presentation. And I think the Glasser Quality School is, for anyone who hasn't considered it, if you think of a school of 800 people or 1,000 people or whoever who are learning choice theory and using it in their lives, that is worth so much compared with helping some people sort out the distress. Why not prevent the distress happening in the first place by teaching choice theory? And hopefully our future politicians will learn a little bit of it as well. Thank you very much, Bette, and thank you everyone for your attending. I'm going to turn off the recording at that point.